out at 9 o'clock. At work, 5 o'clock the next morning. You know, you get off, you got a few hours to work on it. 72 hours isn't enough.
Okay.
How often do you make these trips? How many times a year?
This time, I'm pretty much gone all month. I'm just coming in and switching, because this is gonna be my third trip in less than 30 days. Now, once I put it in my storage, because I do have another spot that I store it at whenever I winterize it, but to load it and unload it and do what I need to do at home, I need more than 72 hours.
And you do this like once a month, twice a month? How often are you doing this?
Once a year, twice a year.
Once or twice, so maybe you could use your 3 times for the occupational, use it as like the 7 days.
But it's on the road, it's on the street.
Nobody's living in it.
Right, but if you're saying that's the only way that, because to give everybody that long of a period of time, maybe.
But he's not the only one in town that does that. There's lots of senior citizens that travel.
I've never seen anybody park one out in the street for that
There's
long.
a lot of.
Come by my house, because I do it a lot. I've just never admitted it to anybody that I do it, but
Yeah. That or nobody's complained about it either, could be too.
Yeah, I got good neighbors.
That seem to be the issue.
You got good neighbors.
There's a lot of people that work in the oil field that park their RVs at their house on their days off, which ain't very long, and then they move them back out.
And then they
Okay.
gotta clean up.
But I got an issue with the 72 hours and the electrical.
I've made a note.
That's my main 2 issues, is the 72 hours and the electrical.
Thank you, sir. Okay, ma'am, do you want to go next?
You got all covered it just about, but there
And
is
can you
some,
state your name, please?
Linda Raines. There is some issues, you know, with the blocking, we live on a corner, and so when we pull out to start out our trip, we park it there and load up the rest of our junk.
Yeah.
And then when we get home, we're like him, my husband has to go back to work, and it's me to unload the trailer, you know? So that's my problem, as, you know, and then getting it into the backyard.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't stay on there. We go about 5 or 6 times a year somewhere, and if it's fishing season and they're biting, we're out just about every weekend. So I can't say, you know, how many times we do that.
So you don't like the 72 hours either?
No. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
got one more issue.
Okay.
Still on RVs, but another issue. The city, and I've talked to Scotty about it, but nothing ever got done. Somebody needs to go up there and trim the trees up there at Avenue D. Mine's 13.6, and if I drag the air conditioners off, dragging it underneath there, dumping it, I want to know who the hell's going to pay for that, because that's the only dump that we've got in the city of Lovington.
Right.
I agree.
We got one.
Where did the pull through by Burger Builders and Avenue D Park?
That is where
Where they have the dump station?
RV dump there.
That's not the only place. On Central, right there
So that's,
beside
these are
the
the city's trees
magistrate
at the
court.
bottom?
You
Yes.
can't drive underneath that
At the
concrete
dump
at all.
station.
And right down the street, there's pine
They are
trees on
so
the side of the
low.
street.
They drag trees that go.
Get your feet.
They're
Okay.
back.
Laura can address that with the
Now,
Parks
what
and
was
Rec.
the second one? Sorry, the
On
second.
Central, right by the magistrate court, right across from
Lazy
Lazy Six. That big pecan tree there,
Yeah.
you can't drive them over or on under it.
You can barely drive a vehicle under it.
It's only about 10 foot to the
Yeah.
limbs.
And if you got a car coming to meet you,
Yeah.
then you're gonna knock your fence off, I guarantee you.
Okay.
And 13.6 is a tall one. I mean, over for Gandy's, I can't even get it in our shop out at Gandy's. It's taller than our shops for our 18-wheelers on mine. And I know it's an issue, and I mentioned it a year ago, and nothing's been done.
I forgot about that, sorry.
That's okay. Lynn?
My name's Lynn Simmons, and I got a granddaughter that comes and stays in one in my drive occasionally. She's gotta come and get a permit?
Yes, sir.
Why?
So that way we can.
It's my
so that
granddaughter.
you have permission. Well, right now you're not supposed to do that anyway.
It's
You're
not,
supposed to
she's
be
not
living-
living in it. She
Right,
comes
she's
and
temporarily
stays.
staying. Well, if she's sleeping in it, then that's considered that they're staying in it. So you have to get a permit
But why does the city need to
So that way you have permission.
penalize somebody that has a visitor in an RV, come and park for a couple of days, say, well,
Well,
you're
that's why we
paying
want
$10.
to issue temporary permits, because we understand.
No, it's for the money.
Wants to come in.
But you,
No, that,
It's
you're
already in the
getting
ordinance.
completely off your venue of the people living in it. You got
That's right, you're off your venue there.
Living in an RV
But,
in the
but how do
city.
we know, Ronnie, how do we know if that's a visitor or somebody living there?
They're
If
gonna
we
be
don't-
gone before you even notice them,
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe not,
more than likely.
more than likely, but if we had a permit, then we don't bother him.
So why should they have to go down to the city and pay $10 for a permit?
Exactly.
Especially if they get in on Friday afternoon, city's closed, and they're gonna leave on Monday. That makes a lot of sense.
That does make a lot of sense. That's why we're here, so we can get all these straightened out.
How long is that permit for?
7 days.
7 days.
And it's 3 occupancies a year, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, or we could, I was thinking more lines of 4, just because major holidays and
Right.
maybe sometimes.
I mean, let's say Lynn and Nan had a death in the family, and the family comes in, and you need room.
Right.
They have,
And
they
that's
have a
why-
big family, trust me.
Pay y'all $10.
Could you get multiple permits then for one lot? Or would they-
And there's no reason for the city to tell them that they can't stay in their motor home.
Temporarily.
And that's crazy.
I agree. Okay. Okay.
I mean,
Let me let the
y'all
rest of them speak, and then we'll go over it.
I don't want to pay $10 if I got a death in my family and somebody stayed.
I
I'm not going
understand.
to think about coming down here and paying y'all with $10.
Right.
What
Okay.
would
Will they
decide
stand them up there? That would
permanent
be
from
like-
temporary to the sewer level?
But they don't have to if he's got a yard.
City sewer,
Yeah, keep it back.
has an issue with the city.
Okay, sir, you can stand up and talk, please.
My name is Mike Stout, and I have a problem with the $10. The main thing is on the $10 right there, we are putting our campers in our backyards, no utilities, and why are we having to pay y'all $10 for somebody to come stay the weekend with us?
Okay,
And that $10, where does it go?
yeah.
Whose pocket? Whose pocket?
Hey now, boy, dude,
Goes to general fund, I mean,
I wish.
working for me.
Y'all can bet I'll issue a permit, it just won't be good. Kevin?
I don't got nothing to say other than county.
Okay. Deb? Ann? Anybody?
Yeah.
Okay, Laura, will you
That's
go
all
over the
it is.
changes, please, ma'am? Or Crystal, somebody?
So a few of the changes we noted from the draft were, we wanted to kind of, also, there's really not a lot in our code about the shade structures that are built for these RVs.
What structures?
The shade structures that you build for the RVs, there's not anything in our code about them.
Okay.
So we kind of wanted to implement, because I know people build them, and I don't want people to not be able to, because really keeping that thing out of the sun helps it last longer.
Exactly.
So we have a little definition on that, and then we wanted to change the line item of the stored RVs require proper, that they can't have any blocks. We wanted it to say that the stored RVs require proper blocking and chopping of tires to prevent unwanted movement.
Right, thank you.
We
So what I
also-
read to y'all was the draft, and now we're looking at the changes to that draft, okay? Okay.
We also wanted to change number 3, where this is on the, where the storage, okay, the storage of the RV shall be in compliance with the following, and that's where we wanted to add that blocking and chalking also.
Okay.
We was gonna take out, we did mention that the electrical, I think we have that.
We didn't take that.
Oh, no, that was in the temporary usage, sorry. Okay. So we really didn't change a lot else there, except for I did have a note that this doesn't keep us from using RV storage facilities at all, or, that's it. Then we have on the shade structure, we had a shade structure can be built for an RV, boat, utility trailer on the property, which can be attached or adjacent to the dwelling, the owner, or by use of the occupants. The shade structure must be properly permitted and approved by planning and zoning and must meet the following. It says it will not be allowed anywhere within the front yard setbacks or beyond the front of the home. Must be match or conform. It's kind of like the carport regulation.
There's many houses in Lovington that have RV storage in the backyard
And on the side.
and on the side.
And that's where we was, you just want to stay, we want to stay off of the street side. But if you don't have that street side, then you'd be able to, we want to keep
Well,
where you can store it side, if there's the appropriate room.
Some RVs are stored on the side of the houses.
Right.
And is that considered the side yard? No, it says street side yard setbacks. Never mind.
Yes,
I'm with you.
that's the only
But
place
we don't want
go.
it stored in the front yard.
No.
On the side of the yard, or if you're on a corner, just don't put it in the setback area of the lot, which is 15 feet on a corner. So it'd have to be 15 feet, and then you can store it beside your house on the side. Does that make sense? Okay, keep going.
And we just wanted to make sure that on the side yard, you still have the appropriate 5 foot between your property line and your neighbors. Because we have had a lot of issues on people calling and saying, he's got his RV parked there, he steps out of his RV onto my property, and I'm saying, build a fence. But what else am I supposed to say to them? I mean, I do get a lot of complaints of that this thing is intruding on their property. And so we want to try to make sure we keep it.
How wide are RVs, Bonnie?
No, why?
Where,
Wide?
Max is 102 inches. How many slide outs you
Have the
got
max.
before they go out? Well, max, I mean.
But just a
the
regular
most
with the slide-ins.
The max is 102 inches. That's the width of a trailer.
Okay.
I mean.
I was just curious. Okay.
and then we just didn't want to take up more of the rear yard than we were supposed to in the ordinance. The temporary
But really,
occupation.
to go and measure that is kind of,
No, we do. We do.
okay.
What
We
is
do
the
setbacks for
temporary?
On the temporary occupation, we wanted to, like I said, the permit for 7 days, and then I changed that to 4 times
Instead
a
of
year.
3, 4 times a year instead of 3.
The number 4 was omitted, that it would be just to immediate family. Because really, that was an issue of how are we going to regulate that.
Okay. The general consensus that I get from y'all is no $10 fee.
Exactly, I would agree with that.
And also not having to get an occupancy permit for, how about if we said something like, you have to get a permit if somebody's going to stay there longer than 7 days?
That would be great.
Would that be something?
Yeah.
Yeah, because then if
If they're gonna stay there longer than 7 days, they're gonna be living there.
But if they're, yes.
Established when that first day started. That's the whole
If
reason.
we don't
for
get
the
a permit, we can establish when you let them start staying.
Well,
Wait, one at a time. Yes, sir, come up to the stand.
Okay. We had a death in the family back in January, and we had relatives come in as far as Indiana.
Okay.
And this lady come and stayed 2 weeks because it was her sister that died. Now, if we didn't have an extra bedroom, she would have had to stay in the motorhome. Or probably I'd have went and stayed in the motorhome, and she could have stayed in the house with her, you know. Well, it's not whether we like her or not, it's just that they have so many years to catch up on all this stuff, and don't need to be there. But she stayed 2 weeks, and then she went back. So that's the reason that, I would say, and I'm not gonna say a month, but, 7 to 10 days.
Okay. The permit,
And people know when somebody's living in an RV beside them.
okay. Ron?
I just have a question. How are you gonna mandate this? Now, how are you gonna track it?
That's what the permit process is, to track it. That's
Who-
what-
Who's gonna make them come get a permit?
I do,
You're gonna make them come get a permit?
yes. code
If you know they're
enforcement
coming in
officers.
town?
We already have rules and regulations. People are not supposed to. We're already out there giving people tickets because we do have.
Because they're staying in an
ordinances.
RV?
Yes, sir, you are not, there are many ordinances in our zoning ordinance and in our regular ordinance that we already use. This helps clean it up so that it's all in one space and it's nice and printed out for everybody. There are other ways. Right now, when people are staying on them, there are things that I can cite you or that other officers can cite or warn you for. We have cited people for it and sent them to court. This is to help clean it up. This is also to help for people who, if it's temporary stay, and you have an opportunity to come and say, hey, we're gonna have these people come to temporary stay.
But you're punishing the people that are getting visitors coming in. Now, well, just a minute. That coming in to visit and then leaving. And you're trying to punish them for people that are living that you're trying to get rid of.
No, it's not punishing them.
Well, that's the way we look at it.
You're getting legal permission.
Legal
So,
permission.
Not doing it illegally.
I guess I
Yes,
have
sir.
to use my passport to go to Texas now.
All over Mama,
Okay, we don't, we're all here to discuss.
What is the yardage on the backyard? I didn't get that.
30%.
30 foot from the alley?
No, it's a square footage average. In our ordinance, you're supposed to have 30% of your backyard for open space.
Okay, for open space.
That's
I'm sorry, I didn't get that while ago.
What if they don't?
Then we won't.
Right, I marked through that.
If it takes up too much of this backyard.
Okay,
you make them tear it down?
No, the ones that are there, we don't want to have, we're not trying to punish anyone. It's not our goal here at all.
the whole goal of the whole ordinance is to try and keep people from permanently living in RVs beside a house, in the driveway, in the backyard. That's all we're trying to do.
I agree with that.
That's all we're trying to do. But to do that,
We have to have.
if Laura drives by and it looks like to her somebody's living there, how does she know somebody's staying there? How does she know they're only there for 3 or 4 days and not permanently living there?
You can have an alcohol door and just ask them.
Yeah, but, and unlike you good people out here, y'all are all honest, there's some people that aren't.
Well, that's true, but then she can go back in 2 or 3 days or a week and look, and if they're still there, then she
knows.
got a clue that something's not right.
That's true too. Yes, sir, can you come, just stand up here, it's fine.
Just a quick question. You were talking about these rules and regulations for RVs. Where are they at? I've never seen them or heard of them.
They're in
Where
the
can we get
RV
'em?
ordinance. And there's also,
No,
you also have to
where
have
can we get 'em?
permission, what I'm talking
You
about.
can get
is
them
you
from
have
the
to-
city, from Anna, she can get them for you.
Okay.
Or they're online.
And they're online also, but she can get
Where?
'em.
I've looked. I've looked all through the Lovington.
It's in the ordinances.
Well, I've tried.
You have to go to the
find
zoning
mine.
ordinances. Did you go to the zoning part?
I've looked them all.
Originally it was in the ordinance that had the original RV parks. When they redid that, some of it was omitted out. In that ordinance, it did state that there was certain things, and then when they changed that, it was taken out. But there's also, you have to have permission to be hooked to the sewer in the city, so in there, and extra water, if you're using water.
I'm just asking where the ordinances are. I mean, I
Like on the
tried to find them.
municipal code.
And Lovington.org?
Yep.
I
tried to
can
find
pull
them.
them up.
If you look and you go to Lovington Municipal Code, and then it says, click here, on that, that's actually where you click.
I know, and I looked through all the codes and stuff, and I couldn't find what I was looking for.
Okay.
I know you have them in there somewhere, but I couldn't find them.
Okay.
And I'm not computer illiterate either.
Right.
Well, it is hard to find out. Yes,
If you'll
ma'am.
come to our office, I'll help you look it up.
Okay.
I kind of blame devil's advocate here, but say our house burnt down. Can we move our trailer in and live in it? 7 days? That's our
In the
backup. That's
current
our
ordinance,
backup.
in the current ordinance, yes, but we're not omitting that from the current ordinance.
Mm.
If you're there, the current
That's an
ordinance
If it
allows
happened,
living.
if it happened, you know, we got a backup.
Correct,
Because it's 36 feet long and it's just for us, it's all we need.
correct. In those type of situations, the ordinance already
But you
allows
can't,
you to do that.
are you talking about living there permanently while you build the other house?
Oh, no, if that would be our house, if some tornado blew our house away and, you know.
No, you can't do that.
Oh, just
Yeah,
to
it's
live
supposed-
in it
Yeah,
forever?
well, sure. We have our own lot, you know, we can hook it up just like we do our other trailer.
They don't
No,
allow
it's
that.
not.
In the current
Lot
ordinance, it's
shaped-
not even
lot
allowed.
shaped in our house.
No, in that case, then no. But if you were gonna do it to rebuild, like if you had a fire in your house and you
Yeah.
temporarily needed to live in that, to fix your structure, you can do that.
Old as we are.
But just
we don't have our house.
and depending on what zone you're in too, you're not allowed to have like mobile homes in certain
Right.
zones and things too. That's the
Yeah,
whole
well,
point.
we have to
So-
do a whole lot of stuff.
Doesn't the,
Been there 30 years.
Laura, doesn't the ordinance already state that you can't live in an RV permanently on a lot?
Yeah, it has,
Okay, well, we're going to take all of your suggestions and questions and comments all into account, and we'll get with them.
Is there an ordinance already saying you can't live in a RV?
past the year
Pardon?
2015, it was stated that a single RV cannot be on a single lot, lived in on a single lot.
Lived in on a single lot.
You would have. to
Like
get
if there's
that
not a house
information.
there.
Recreational
Well, what if
vehicles.
there's a house there? Do you mean that doesn't apply to that?
No.
Well, why don't you just change that wording in that one little deal? Instead of making this big scope of ordinance.
We'll look at that too.
This, I will think one of the reasons why too this was also done is because this is in zoning. Because this is a big use of how you.
This
do
is just
your
another way government is intruding on our lives.
Well, if you can think of a way, we'll be glad to hear.
Change that one little wording in that single lot, single RV to where you cannot live in an RV permanently anywhere.
And what does it say?
Okay, the reason why we can't do that, once again, is because it's not in zoning. We need it to be in the zoning
Zoning.
ordinance versus the regular ordinance, because it's a use of.
Well, then just take that little statement and put it in the zoning ordinance.
Can we do that?
The reason.
Les,
one of the reasons
is that something
why-
we can do, Les? Is that something we can do? One little statement.
Okay,
You can do whatever you want to suggest to the city,
Okay.
but whatever you suggest is only a suggestion.
Yes. Whatever we suggest to the city commissioners is still only a suggestion. Try to remember that.
Well, that's
We're just
true.
an advisory
But
board.
instead of suggesting a great big ordinance that you're already trying to rewrite, just do the simple little thing and put that in there.
I'd like to address that.
Okay, go ahead, Laura.
The reason why we don't want to just do a simple phrase, and the reason to put all of this into it, is to differentiate and to be able to, so if I cite someone to go into court, I have the burden of proof on how are they living in it or how they not living in it. This ordinance, by putting all the details that we put into it, allows to say what is lived in, what is basically not lived in. So it's a tool, because that is one of the problems that I already have in the ordinance, as far as when I've cited people into court to prove that they're living in it. And so this goes into greater detail, so that way, well, if you're not living in it, okay, well then, say this person says they're not living in it, but it's hooked up to the sewer, the water, electric, they have cable TV, but they say that they're not living in it. So there's certain, the reason why you go into this great length and detail is so that way it states clearly what is allowed and what is not allowed, and what is considered lived in, what is considered stored in, so that you can differentiate and that the law can differentiate, so that when we're out there doing our jobs and then we take anything to court, then it goes, that way there's a guideline. And that, okay, well, this is not considered lived in, this is considered used for storage. And then here's the rules on what it's considered to be lived in. We have to have the differentiation. If you just put that ordinance and just change it to that, then there's no guidelines on what's considered lived in, what's considered storage. That's the whole reason, and the reason for your input is so those of you who have RVs and you store them all the time, you know what needs to be done. So that way you help us to differentiate on what is stored in and what is lived in.
If I can't use an RV for storage, then I go get a 40-foot shipping container, stick in my backyard and store it in there?
If you get a permit, and if it has the proper spacing and all of that stuff, then yes, there are people who have those types
Oh,
of
I
containers.
know, I know, and they look a lot worse than an RV.
Yes, they
We'll let you store it. We just, like I said, the whole thing is
But.
okay, now, yes ma'am, one more
Okay,
comment.
what about you're saying permanent, if it's just got electricity running to it?
No, we've already discussed, yeah, we're with that, we're with you on that.
It's one of the things to establish whether or not, so that's why we ask for your input. So whenever somebody like me goes through, one of my officers said we've never owned an RV in our whole life. So we see it hooked up to electricity, so we think that somebody's staying in it because it's hooked up to electricity. We don't think about the batteries because we don't have an RV, so we have nothing. That's why we want the public to come, give us input to help with these guidelines, to help us differentiate so that we can do a better job.
Okay, now this, you said TV, we have a satellite on top. Okay, so we have to lift that satellite every once in a while. Or is that gonna be a problem?
No, where it's a problem is whenever people have it ran from the RVs over to connected to a house.
Okay.
Connected in. That's what I come across sometimes.
And that's not proof that they're living in it?
If you just leave, depending on who looks at it. That's why you have ordinances, because it's all about interpretation of the law. So I may interpret it one way, the judge may interpret it another way, and you may interpret it
And
another
the
way.
lawyer's gonna interpret it another way.
Correct. So the reason why we come up with these guidelines and these ordinances is so that we can get a better, clear interpretation and everybody be on the same page, and that this is the best way to write this, so that way we address the issue that's at hand, but we still allow for people that were not
And why don't you just give
taking.
people a free permit instead of charging them $10?
Because it takes time and labor and paper and stuff. That's why
Do you think their
everything's
time and labor to come
everything-
get it's not worth anything?
Pardon?
Do you think their time and labor's not worth anything?
I didn't say that, sir. I'm
Well, I
just
know,
stating
but I mean,
that you
you're
get
asking
the
people to take time out of their time to come get a permit.
Just like we would with a building permit, electrical, any type of things you do, if you
I don't
own a
have to pay for a
business, you
building
have to
permit.
get, I'm just saying, stating in general, when we talk about permits, when you do a lot of things, you have a permit and a fee, and that's part of the process, somebody has to process that.
Okay.
When are y'all gonna be through before we can find out the results of what y'all's?
We're probably gonna have to have a work session and then.
Yeah, it's not
it'll
for a
be-
while.
Not for a while, so.
And it will be, we will have another meeting before anything
Yes,
is,
before anything.
anything.
Coming out with another draft. For everybody to look at. Okay, I would like to give everybody on the board a chance to comment, so.
Oh, I have a comment.
Oh,
Let me come up.
okay, Deb.
This has been very humorous. I tell you, I have laughed. My name is Deborah Jean White, if you want to remember who I am, because this has been a joke. I just laughed and laughed at all the humorous things that y'all have said. And what you have done is you have sit right here and decided that the people in the city of Lovington should be controlled like Obama controls and wants to control. Don't you think so?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm asking you. Pardon me?
That's not my job.
It's not your job? What is your job?
My job is to tell everybody what they want to do is legal or not, okay? I don't make...
You're the lawyer.
I understand.
You're the lawyer. Now I understand who you are. What's your name?
My name is Cox.
Cox? Mr. Cox, thank you for telling me what your name is. But I'm going to tell y'all, this has been a joke, and I have really enjoyed laughing at this. And you, whenever you get this all figured out, please go around and tell people to get their weeds out of the yard that grows up 7 or 8 feet high. Please do that.
Okay, Deborah.
And now wait a minute, I'm talking. You asked me if I had something to say, I have something to say. And please, tell them to clean their alleys up. And tell the people that work for this city cleaning it up, tell them to get out of the pickup and go do it. Clean up this place. That's what I have to say. This has been a joke. I'm ready to go in.
I do want to say, Deb, that there's other ordinances that get enforced too. This isn't the only one.
Well, I sure would like to stay around, but I really don't want to when it comes to
There is an ordinance on
landscaping.
weeds also.
I mean, but I'm not talking about just this meeting. We have a book full of ordinances to enforce. So,
Callie,
I mean, I'm
I'm
saying.
a realtor and you don't want to see somebody living next door to somebody.
No, it doesn't affect me, it affects my sellers, or somebody else's seller, or whoever it happens to be selling. It affects property values for anybody, whether they're selling or not. So,
Can we go?
yes, we can go on. Betty, do you have any comments that you'd like to make?
You're not gonna run either, but it's okay. This temporary occupation thing, that is just so wrong. You're invading someone's privacy. They own that trailer. You have to pay for it. You pay taxes on
Okay,
that
so
trailer.
we're not gonna allow them to have temporary occupancy at all, because that's the only other option, is we have to tell people not to live in it, or let them have a temporary occupancy.
Why do you need to tell someone, if his family dies tomorrow and they come and stay in that trailer, oh, you can't do that, you can't stay more than 7 days?
We already do tell them not to do it. This is allowing them a way to do
Getting
it.
a permit and paying $10 for it is ridiculous.
Amen.
This is something you paid $50,000 for, and I'm honest, I own one. I keep it hooked up to electric, because if I don't, my batteries die, my refrigerator will have to be replaced. Because if it doesn't run constantly, it goes bad. And it's a high dollar to have to replace. And I bought it, I pay taxes on it because I have to tag it every year. So if it's in my backyard and I have 9 family members come in because of some whatever, and they stay a week, why don't you come down here and get a $10 permit?
Because
When
it's
you can
allowing
go
them.
buy, if that trailer is hooked up to water and sewer, go buy and find them.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll find you when your family's in town
But
temporarily.
I don't live in town, that's the problem.
Well, okay, but
See,
that's what
but
I'm saying,
if I had
this
it-
is in town.
In town.
If it was in town.
They wouldn't be hooked up to sewer and water.
On multiple residents, when there's multiple families, districts, you can have more than one thing in there.
No.
Yeah, and
You
multiple.
can still have only one main structure.
But this isn't a main structure.
No, it's not.
So if it's not hooked up to the sewer, and it's not hooked up to gas, it's not hooked up to anything, it's not livable. But if they're there just not using nothing, then it's not lived in.
Okay.
When my family come, they only run the electric.
And
They
that's
run the
running
air
anyway.
conditioner.
Yep.
But they don't use the water in it because they come in the house and use the showers. So telling someone that they got to pay a permit for family visiting or a death in the family, anything that comes up, that you got to get a permit for someone to come and stay with you?
It's stupid.
I think, I understand what you're saying, but the reason why we're saying is to give the permit is because basically it's not allowed. This is a way to have it allowed. If somebody does it, it's legal.
The current ordinance that's in place for RVs.
You're not to occupy.
You're not supposed to be
Unless it's in
occupied,
an RV
but
park.
the only way that the city code enforcement, according to the current ordinance, I'm not supporting it, or I'm just saying what it says. According to James, what he told me, he said that the only way right now with the ordinance, the way it's written, to tell if somebody is living in it, occupying it, is if it's hooked up to sewer. Well,
And that's pretty, you have to have an extra sewer hookup to hook up to sewer. So,
Not everybody does that. I understand.
Then what do they do, run it out on the ground?
We
Yes.
have some issues
Some
with
people do
doing
that, some people tap in.
And that's not proof that they're living in it?
So,
I mean, that can get into a whole other
Yeah, that's what-
ball
yeah,
game.
it is.
You don't have to have an ordinance to
But not everybody
correct that.
does things the right way, and there are people that hook the water up to it and take showers and run it round. I've seen it,
Oh, I know that.
yeah.
But I say, if you've got that kind of proof, then why do you need an ordinance saying I can prove it?
Because people are living in the RVs and illegally tapping into the sewer.
Well, that's proof.
But we can't go in their
We can't
backyards
sign
to
them
tell them.
But you can tell them what to have inside it and what they can have hooked to it and what.
Right.
Then if you can't go in their backyard to do that, if my company comes and stays in my RV, you can't come in my backyard and say, hey, you need to get a permit.
Can you? I'm asking.
Yes, if you have, so the way the law works is that if you have, if you have a complaint, so if you have a big old 6 foot, 7 foot, 8 foot privacy fence, and let's just use a dog, for example, and this dog has been crying for 2 days. And so you call the police department and you say, hey, look, there's a dog next door that's just been crying for 2 days. When that complaint comes in, at that point in time, then we have the right to go check it out for the safety and well-being to see what's going on. So at that point, then we can actually look into, just to check on the dog. Maybe the dog is hurt or injured.
And if you have a complaint with somebody living in an RV, then you can go in the backyard. You don't have to have another ordinance.
The ordinance is to clarify the difference.
Oh,
and it gives
bullshit.
us stuff to stand on.
Oh, okay. David, do you have a comment?
I do not.
Clint, to you.
I really have a lot of problems with this whole thing. You know, a lot of people park their RVs in their driveways beside their houses. Everybody knows we're in the oil field economy, the economy way it goes up and down. A lot of people just, can afford an RV. Well, when times go down, or, work goes down, whatever, they might not be able to afford to store it somewhere else, so they have it beside their house. Or people who were living elsewhere and lost their jobs may have had to move into grandma's yard or mom's yard because now they can't afford RV spots because they don't have a place, and they're, but allowing RV parks, but not to someone to be able to park an RV on their property. There's a conflict right here. It says not to be used as a permanent dwelling unless you're paying one of the few people that owns an RV park. People's, telling people what they can put in it. I mean, why are we even considering worrying about what people have inside their stuff? That's not our business. I mean, that's way over the line, in my opinion. Telling them how they can store their, I don't know, that just got issues with all that. The permit, what if people just come in and stay for the weekend? Well, if they didn't have the permit, which, I mean, I get it, because code enforcement doesn't work on the weekend, so they're not probably ever gonna know that anyway. It's hard, or do you? I'm sorry. I don't know, I didn't think so. I think it's like Monday through Friday, but, after hours, well, people are gone, their camper's sitting there empty, you don't know if they're living there or not, then you go home at 5 o'clock, they go home at 5 o'clock, you're there, they're living in the RV. It's gonna be a tough situation to catch people anyway. I don't know. Personally, I got just so many more little issues with the time frame. I'm just personally not really good with it, worrying about what's going on in somebody else's
And it
RVs
is
or
because of
property.
economy, somebody might be living there permanently for that time.
And
Sorry,
a lot of these ordinances to me come from, well, Albuquerque or a bigger town, this is the way they do it. Well, they have other economies also. Ours fluctuates in many jobs, and people's money fluctuates with the job. So when things are slow, people do what they got to do. They might still want to live here. They might have moved out of mom's house or wife's house, whatever, into an RV. Well, then they end up having to go back for whatever reason, and I don't know, I mean, I get it, you don't want people living in RVs because they use water that somebody pays for from the city because they dump septic that was paid for with the water that they purchased through the meter. I don't know, I mean, I'm probably just babbling, go ahead. Saskia.
Bobby?
No comment.
Okay, the only comment I have is, I really don't like being called Obama, but anyway. Because I really don't like Obama.
Yeah, I really
But, yeah, but we're not trying to harm or hurt anybody. And like most of our codes that Laura and Crystal and Laura's team have to enforce, most of the enforcement is going to be complaint driven anyway. So, I mean, it's not like we have the manpower or she has the time to go around to every house and knock on their door and say, I want to look in your RV and see if somebody's living there. It's more going to be complaint driven than anything. But we have to have, you know, we're not as bad as Hobbs. Didn't Hobbs just pass it 3 months ago and they said no more RVs
The only
at
problem
all?
I have with this is the person that made the complaint is RV dealer. He has an RV park.
I didn't get the complaints, but I was told that this was set
I was
because
at
of.
the commissioner meeting when he got up and said, this is why, we need to stop people from living in them, and because he's an RV dealer. He has 2 RV parks here. And it was Gary Clemens. I was at the commissioner meeting when he did it.
But what seems to fail to understand is prior to us doing our RV code, remember when we did the RV, when Meredith Hilbert was here and redid the RV code, correct? Prior to that being redone, in that code, you were not allowed to live with them, this is nothing new. This has been this way previously. When they redid the code, they left that out of the code. So this is what this stems from, is previous, for many years, it stated in there that you could not live in an RV, could not occupy it unless in an RV park, in the original ordinance before it was changed about a year ago.
Yeah, so this is not a new thing we're trying to push on everybody.
And in that ordinance, you were allowed to actually get permission on a lot to have it in a commercial zone. If you had a vacant lot and you wanted to rent that vacant lot out to someone to live in an RV, you could at that time. When the code was redone,
they took that out.
And that took that out of it, but it also, they omitted the part where it states, and so people are complaining because everybody's living in it, so we have to put that back in the code. But the thing was that it was said that it should be put into zoning, not just the general code. At the time, it was in the general code. So whenever that ordinance was rewritten, that was one of the things that I said, well, this states that in there, we need to put that back in there. And it was advised that that's more of a land use, so that actually should go into zoning. So this is nothing new. This is something that I've been enforcing for the last 5 years that I've been here. So it's not like all of a sudden we're saying, hey, y'all can't live in it. You were never allowed to live in it to begin with.
I mean, and
My question, if you've been enforcing it, why the change? Why the need for a change?
So
If it's been enforced for 5 years.
They redid the code, took that one part out. There are ways that I do still try to enforce it. This is to make my job easier between the differentiation, what rules, and they're not, and I have to be able to hold it up in a court of law. So
it makes it so she can take it to a judge, and this is what proves that it's being lived in.
It's like the weed ordinance or any other ordinance that we're redoing, that you're re-amping, so that way there's better clarification, and there's a lot of times, there's more detail in it because it's too general. So even in our old ordinance, it was very generalized. Instead of this being in generalized, like the ladies will like just make that one sentence. Well, that's very, right, so that leaves it very broad for lots of interpretation. Where this narrows down the interpretation to this is, that way there's a guideline, so whenever I read it, my code enforcement officer reads it, these are their guidelines to say how for them to differentiate what we mean by that, or what the city means and what the citizens want.
Because it's just like enforcing the weeds. The way some people get out of it because of the way it reads. There is people who will get around anything you set in an ordinance if you leave them a loophole to do it. And that's why you can't make broad general statements. That's why we need to figure out an ordinance that's direct,
Okay, well,
to the
so,
point. If there's things you don't like, we need to discuss
So-
removing those issues.
what is the problem with an RV parked in somebody's driveway? So on the side of the driveway, a portion, like say the side of the yard, parked driveway.
But this just says it
There's
can't
nothing
block
on the
it.
driveway.
It
It
says
says you can't block the driveway, like in front of the driveway. where
out on the
people
street,
drive.
just,
Yeah.
why doesn't it say, just say on the street then?
Because you can't, on the street, off-street parking.
Can't
that's
block
gonna-
the driveway
Or the sidewalk,
in the street from,
but like if one's parked and blocking the sidewalk, here's the sidewalk and here's the RV.
If you've
Well, I'm
got
sure
an
about the
RV
driveway.
sitting here, and another person has a driveway right next to you, and it's out in the driveway, they can't see to back up and see traffic coming until they get in the road.
And
That's
it
why
gives-
we're asking them to move it back, even with.
And we already have an ordinance that states you can't block the sidewalks,
Yes.
under the
oh, right, I get the sidewalks and stuff, so.
I could
I'm
go
just-
to that ordinance and cite under that one or one under that one, but this makes it clear, and it's just right here in your RV.
Well, it's just like he was saying, he can't find them all, and that's because they're here and there and there, and that's why we're trying to put it in one zoning ordinance, so everybody can go, it's this section, this spot.
So what about David here that comes in and puts this in the road? Are you saying that's not?
No, he's not blocking the side and he's unloading and loading and we addressed
That's
that.
okay
to
with
him.
that?
Well, we addressed that
That's
with
what we're
him.
trying to address, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was disagreeing with the 72 hours and we understand what he's saying and what you're saying too about the 72-hour
Right.
limit.
Yes.
So we're going to discuss that further and not, I mean, that's just, we looked at other codes from other towns, pulled them all together and kind of made.
And originally, the loading in the original ordinance for long, and originally it was only a 24 hours.
It was
So
only
this is
24
actually more than what was originally given.
You have to
in the
ride
very-
around the block.
So it gives you more leniency, so.
Yes, sir.
We're trying.
Yes, sir.
This is, don't have nothing to do with the RVs, but it could in a way. Does Lovington have an extraterritorial zone?
Yes, sir.
How far out does it go?
1 mile.
1 mile?
Well,
Was it 2?
it's been 1 mile for years, but my understanding from James is it's going to have to be moved to 3 miles.
It depends on the size of the community.
It depends on the size of the community. That is mandated by law.
By population size?
Yes.
And so whenever our population went down, does the.
But our population didn't go down, it actually went up.
Did it?
Yes, ma'am.
It did.
15, they did a recount of the census.
We're talking about
within-
right now, honey.
Well, I don't know
Okay.
right now.
Now-
The last one they did was right at 15,000, is that correct, Liz? I think it was right at
Wow.
15,000.
It goes 3 miles from the city limits.
Yes, sir, it's
Okay, where's
supposed
the
to.
city limits on the Tatum Highway?
The-
I mean, like if you're going out the Plains Highway.
Where's the city limits going out the Plains Highway?
As you come off of commercial.
Okay, from that right there, from commercial, you would go out
3 miles.
3 miles.
But guess who's
There's
going
that little section off of Gum, where commercial comes out and Gum
Right.
goes right there. That little section comes into the city limits, but then the highway and everything north of it
Yeah.
is not.
Okay, and then and just like, you gotta go under the overpass to go towards Tatum?
Yes.
How far out that way? would
That's
it
not-
go?
That's not in, that's county.
Okay.
Okay, but let me
Does
tell
it
you.
fall in
What
that
about the-
extraterritorial zone?
It does fall in the extraterritorial zone, but according to the last meeting that we had with the extraterritorial zoning authority board, which is the county, which has 3 county commissioners and 2 city commissioners on that board. They're rewriting that zoning ordinance for that zone. And according to them, and what they appointed at the time was the county enforces the zoning ordinances for that ETZ zone right now. So it'd be the environmental department that enforces anything outside the city limits right now.
Okay.
Until they come to a further agreement down the road. I don't know how long that'll be. They've only had 1 meeting in a year and a half, so I don't know.
I have another question. Like, I understand that this is for, or to address people living in RVs. I'm kind of still stuck on why then is something mentioned about what can be put in the RV or how it can be stored?
We just got these from generalized, this is nothing we've made ourselves. And if that's something that's totally off the chart, then we'll.
Well, I mean,
that's.
I'm just curious.
Sometimes that you have people who aren't used, that it's not, but I think also when it talks about being registered and things like that, from my perspective on why somebody would have put that in there is so that somebody is not just taking they're not really ever using it as an RV, they're using it to store things.
For the storage
as a
building.
Storage building. So if it's a storage building, it should have to meet storage building code.
And we have code.
And that's a health and safety issue.
Yes.
And that's the reason for that, is actually, in all honesty, is health and safety. Because if you have stuff in there that you're storing that, you know, an RV is very flammable and goes up very quick versus the construction of it versus the construction of an actual storage building. And that's some of the problems that I know that other people, I've come across it too, not as much of it as probably where some of these other ordinances it was gathered from that they have the issues. And then you have rodents too. That's a huge problem in people who use them for just throwing stuff and storing junk in.
Yeah, rodents.
Rodents.
Get up in the insulation. Hobbs just passed an ordinance, I know on RVs, that none. You can't they can't even store them in their yard, can they?
I'd have to look and see.
I know it's pretty strict.
Yes.
And they are out ticketing people because Brock, they told him he had to move off of.
But where do you move them to?
And
They are making them move them outside the city or into storage facilities.
Yeah.
Or you have to realize too that Hobbs doesn't have zoning either, and we do. So the purpose of zoning is because you want your community to have an overall.
No, they don't have zoning, but they do have ordinances.
They do have ordinances.
Correct. They just don't have zoning. But they do have ordinances, and that ordinance that they passed said you can't have an RV. I'm not sure if it's totally, completely even stored on your property, but I know that you cannot live in it. You have to take it to, they don't even allow they ticketed a friend of ours and made him move it.
You know, I don't know. We bought the RV and now we can't.
No, you can't.
You can't do anything.
We're not telling you can't do anything. Right now, we're just
I know, that's why we're here, trying to get something.
We're just telling you, please don't live in it permanently.
Hey, you can't store it, you can't, we don't want to do that.
Right.
No.
That's just, you know, what she said, Austin. Well, oh my God.
We don't want to do that.
The health and safety issues and everything else, so that's why they went to that measure. There's a lot of health and safety issues too that deal with things when people living in RVs and not doing it properly and electrical. If you don't have proper electrical and you're just running extension cords, that's actually a safety issue. And you can actually get in trouble with the state also with doing things like that. So there's a lot of issues that come into.
So if we've got it plugged in to a outlet, I mean, not electrical, I mean, extension cord, that's plugged in to a outlet, it's okay. Is that right?
Do you have the proper
Outlet.
Yes.
For that? Okay. So you have an RV, so they have the proper, and you have the proper, so I'm talking about people who run just the simple electric.
The little round extension cord, that's not even for an exterior.
They think it's a heavy duty just because it's the orange.
Well, is there, my question is for you with RVs, is there any reason to have a water hose hooked up in general at your home?
About 30 minutes at a time while you're.
While you're filling up your tank.
Actually, you want to do that? Sure.
Yeah, we had to build the tank, I suppose.
About 30 minutes, I'll have that tank full and I'm through.
And then you go to the park, to
Well, I understand, but my dad disengaged.
So I mean, unlike the extension cords or cords, electrical cords, then there's really no need to have it more than for a few minutes, hour.
No, my electric cord, I'll leave it out all the time.
Yeah.
Right, but I mean, nothing else, you would have nothing else normally.
Most of them has enough extension cord that comes from the factory that's been around 3 or 4 prong, and you just plug them into
30 amp or 50
I
amp.
spent the extra money, I ran a 50 amp across my yard, put a 50 amp where I can plug it in.
Right.
Even though I'm parked on the street, I can use the factory 50 amp cord to plug into a 50 amp, because I have a licensed electrician for plugging in 50 amp where I can plug in. And as far as water, 30 minutes to fill it up.
Right, and change.
And if we change the electrical to where we allow the electric, that would be one of the things that we need to be put in, but it's up to
It has to
code.
be up to code as far
Correct.
as the
Electrical and state code, correct.
Right.
Yeah, not
And
three,
there's nothing wrong with that.
not three frayed brown electric cords wrapped in duct
Wait,
tape.
Well, what about any kind of underpinning, anything like that? I mean, I'm sure you don't do anything like that with yours, but is there any need that you know of? I mean,
we keep on ours, we keep these, they're fiberglass deals that go over the wheels and tires.
Right, wheels and tires.
But it's not underpinned like a.
It's any.
nothing like the mobile home?
It's just like she said, for wheels and tires. To keep them in shape better.
Well, if it was just common sense there, Mr. Attorney, we wouldn't be having all this conversation.
Okay, don't forget smoking on the plaza this weekend.
Okay.
We have 57 teams entered,
Wow, great.
and I'm
That's a
panicking
lot.
about where to put them. So,
In front of that RV.
they're all bringing RVs too. Okay, let's go on to the recommendation for mobile food vendors.
Okay, we have in our ordinance a mobile food vendor's business license that is supposed to be obtained. And in order to get a business license, you have to go through the state's approval. So, did we need more on that, or, because it's $100 for a mobile food vendor. They passed that ordinance in 2015, wasn't it? So,
But isn't that, is it just for like an extension or that?
no, it is for all mobile food.
So they have to
vendors.
get a food permit from the state.
They have to be, their food truck has to be state approved.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, all I require, I don't see anything from the state, they just, when they do that. All I am required to see is that, it's mobile, it has to be inspected by the health inspector.
Which is the state
Which is
permit.
the state permit, and then they have to have their CRS permit, their tax ID number. Without those, I cannot issue anything. But that's what I have to have for anyone that serves food anytime.
Does that include snow cone trucks, these ice cream trucks that are coming from Texas?
They told me no, but I'm not sure because it's usually just people that have hot and cold foods like hamburgers or French fries and tacos.
What about the guy that's pushing around the little blue cart?
He has a business license and he's good to go, you know? But, if it's just snow cone, it's just ice, you know, and they have to keep it clean. But I mean, it's nothing, there's no trays, there's no compartments for to see how hot or how cold it has to stay for food, you know what I'm saying? Like beans or taco meat or.
Okay, this ordinance says that they get the license, but it's only for 7 days?
That's a vendor's permit.
Yeah, vendor's permit.
That's a different one.
Oh. Oh, it sure is. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I'm with that little bitty change. Does anybody have any discussion on that little change where she wants to add what a mobile food business means? As far as a food truck?
Yeah, just so we had a better, because we don't really have, in our ordinance, we don't have a good definition of what a mobile food vending unit is. And that's where you would say, do you want to, is the little snow cone trucks, like in Hobbs's, they say, the ice cream and snow cone truck, and they say, the alcohol vending carts, different things. It was in your email, did you get your email?
I did.
It was in the Hobbs has a draft for what the definition of a mobile food is.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Or just the simple one you put in there.
I like the simple one you put in there.
So, I have a question. What Jenny's saying, a mobile business permit. The mobile is the one that's only good for the 7 days.
And that's what they will go to work. I know as much as what they go there. Right, and they're just getting their vendor, they're the transient. I think I don't know, maybe, it's 7 days, right. Okay, so on the mobile business, that's what I was
Okay, any questions, comments, concerns? Y'all have been on public funds.
Is this the one on the burrito place on
Avenue R?
Glen Avenue D, isn't it, that moved in there? This is just because I have it, okay.
No.
No, it's not mobile, it's mobile. The one across from Mosaic.
Yes.
Okay, one out here, just on Avenue D, just down there by Eddie Street.
Yeah, Segovias or whatever.
Yeah.
I think
Is that considered mobile or?
It's considered mobile, but they're keeping it there because they have such a good business area.
So,
And there's parking area there. But it is considered a mobile. When they came in, it was considered a mobile, business, and that's what they got.
But then they pay the $100 a year.
A year.
And the people that comes up and sets up over here, like those two guys that comes in for the tool sales, that's the
That's
seven.
out in the county.
That's an itinerant
That's a
transient vendor.
That's a vendor and they're
Okay.
7 days.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was asking, to differentiate.
They used to set up over here at first.
First, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's called a transient
They
vendor.
pay me $500, but it's only good for 7 days.
Yeah, it's only good for 7 days.
Wow.
Then they have to move on.
So it would be, is it just easier to pay the $100 and have it for a year than 500 and have it for 7 days?
No, you have to have a business
No,
license.
It's two different
Oh,
things.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Itinerants don't have a business license. The
And we
mobile
don't
food
receive
trucks
the
do.
gross receipts tax from them,
Right.
so that's why it's a more expensive program.
Okay.
So do we need to change that? Do we get the grocery receipts tax from these mobile vendors?
Yes.
Yes.
Mobile businesses.
They have to have a
They have to
business
have a
license.
business license and they have to have a.
And to get a business license, they have to show a CRS ID number. Now, whether, kind of like the motels and the line,
Yeah,
whether they actually report that or not.
What people
we
really
have-
do, we can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have any control over
They
it.
reported every penny to the
But,
state.
yeah, we need to really change it so the definition gets really there.
And that's what I wanted you guys' guidance on, is the definition of it. And that's why I emailed you all the different things about food trucks and the history and all that, so you could kind of, if you guys had some definite verbiage that you wanted to use in
How much
that
does Hobbs
definition.
charge
I get an email.
for the mobile
Hmm?
thing?
I get an
Does it
email.
say? I didn't remember seeing on there.
How much is what?
You didn't
Hobbs
get it
charge
in
for their mobile license.
Their mobile
I
license,
didn't
they
see
actually,
on it.
right now, they are 125.
I was thinking.
Their mobile business license for the city of Hobbs, oh, it's $100 for 1 calendar year, and then they must obtain a business license also for $25. So it's $125 total for them. They
So
have to get
maybe-
2 licenses.
Maybe that's what we should do, is to do the 2 different licenses on here too.
The 100 for
Well,
what?
we have 2 different licenses in our.
They have to get a business license and what?
In Hobbs, they have to have a business
Well,
license.
that's what I think,
and
maybe they
a
should
mobile
have to
business
get a
license.
business license
And
and
a
a
mobile
mobile
business license.
business license. Maybe they should have to get both over here too.
It does say that. Is this not it, the mobile business? It says in addition to a business registration fee, isn't that the business?
There
That
is-
would be an addition.
There is imposed an annual mobile business activity fee. So the business
So that would be the
registration
same
fee.
125 because
We
we charge
already have it.
25 per business.
Alright.
Yeah, so it's the same.
It says in addition to the
In
business
addition.
registration fee. So they have to get a mobile business fee and a business fee. So
Right.
that's more than 100
It's 125.
from Lovington too. Okay,
And they pay taxes.
supposedly,
Any business supposedly pays taxes.
Supposedly, any
Yeah,
business
like
does.
that.
I
supposedly.
do, it's not much.
Okay,
Okay, so that's all I needed was just some help
Yeah,
from any
yeah.
of you on your verbiage of describing a food truck.
And how can we make sure that they go in there properly?
Food.
The mobile, how would
These
you,
food trucks.
how would you know that they do or don't?
Dumping their grease or what?
No, dumping their water, grease,
Water and
everything
stuff.
down the highway. Yeah, they were good at
That's
that.
when you have to just take a picture, because
Yeah.
That's complaint driven again.
I'm going to next time, all right.
Okay.
Okay, special permits. Somebody tell me what we're talking about here.
Laura had asked me to look into conditional and special use permits. We have one area in our zoning that allows for special use permits. There's been several things through zoning, through the state, that have come up that need conditional use. So we was just wanting to know if you guys had any input.
Can you give me an example? No.
What about garage
these.
sales? Is this what this is?
No.
Okay.
What's the proper way to say it? Medical marijuana shops. that sell and-
Dispensaries?
Yes, dispensaries. Those do not, that doesn't fit any of our code. It would need a conditional or special use permit. So,
And right now, we don't have, do we have a code for special use permits with the city?
this is the only thing we have in special use.
Why would it be special
One
use?
location.
Why would it be a special use?
Because of the.
Because of the type of.
I would have thought a special use would be like some kind of an event. Like if,
No, like when you have zoning, you have all the different like conditional, special use, variants. We do everything through variants.
You know,
There's
growing
actually
the
other ways and
product
better
and,
ways to, so a variance, and then you have your special or conditional use. So conditional use is saying it puts certain conditions on that use.
For a certain amount of time.
Okay, let's say that I buy the 5 acres across the hospital and I want to put an insane asylum there. According to this, that's a special use.
Yes. That would
And
be-
it's only for a set amount of time?
That's where it comes into how you write your code.
Would it depend on
I
how
know.
insane the person is?
She said it depends on how insane the people are.
I would say.
But I don't really know what a special use of a cemetery would be.
I don't
either.
How about we
Special
give you a
use of what?
definition?
A cemetery.
That is what is in
The
our
special
code,
use of
so.
the cemetery, would it be like the benches and stuff that you put out there?
No, special, they're saying,
Oh, we're gonna go have a big old party out at the,
yeah, if I wanted to have a Halloween party at the cemetery.
all right.
You know what, or those,
I don't-
the Wiccans do that, you know, at Halloween.
The who?
The Wiccans.
That's a special event, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a special event.
For them.
Well, that'd be a special permit, so that they would really need to obtain from the city to do that, I would say.
This is zoning issues. This is strictly in zoning, which
Okay.
goes towards all of the different types of
Land
variances
use.
and land use. So how about we bring you back all the different ones? So there's
Okay.
all kinds of different things that you
And
should have. And how about we
at the
break
kids,
it?
they were talking about different places that you could
Yes.
have a dispensary. You can't have it so close to a church or so
300
close
feet.
to a school.
Right. Yes.
That's like we had to get the special use permit for the brewery.
Why would,
Yes.
yeah.
why wouldn't that just be a
Because
zoning
schools
or an ordinance with
churches,
zoning
different
rather than a
things
special
being-
use permit? Like, because if they set up a dispensary, they're not doing it temporarily, they're trying to be in
And that
business.
kind of
and-
like sales of alcohol.
So it'd just be a regular-
Yeah, these
Yeah.
special permits are not for
Ordinance
temporary.
or-
That's why they were talking.
This is gonna go in zoning. It's gonna go
And
in
it's not
zoning, so it
temporary
goes
use.
to your different
This is
uses for
permanent
zoning.
use.
For alcohol, you can't serve it at this place, but,
Unless the church is agreeable to it.
yeah.
Yeah, see,
But
for the brewery that's going in by
On this
Methodist
one,
Church,
they said that it
we had to
didn't
do a
matter
special
if the
use
church
permit
approved of
for
it or
that
not.
piece of
They
property.
could still put
to
it
get
there.
the
because
blessing of
it's
Methodist
not,
Church.
What they call
What they
it?
drink, so it's.
Oh, they call it a certain deal. They said that
Well,
It's-
it would-
it's a controlled substance, but there was another way that they could get around being able to put it just anywhere almost, a dispensary. And I
Is
was
this
like,
in the
So
zoning?
is this to stop this or?
So,
So instead
go
of
ahead,
bringing, sorry, you may address that first.
Yeah.
or-
go ahead.
What'd you say now?
I said, is this to maybe stop this or limit it to certain places?
No,
or-
areas.
that's what I was fixing to address with her. So the reason why we're looking at these different things is so all the time we come to planning and zoning and we bring all these different issues that come up.
Right.
So people want to do this, because in zoning, you have rules and regulations
Right.
on what you're allowed to do in your property, on your property, with your property, in the zone that you live in. This is another tool
for the Planning and Zoning Commission, instead of saying, oh, we want to give a variance, this could be a special use, this could be a conditional use. But in order to address it properly, you have to have those tools in there. So the state already has these kind of things. Basically, what we're wanting to do is bring us up to time and up to what needs to be. Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
So that way we can address these things in the proper manner, but you can't, all we can do is give variances, basically. And that's, in all honesty, not necessarily the best thing to do. It may be a conditional use or a special use, but we have to have that in our ordinance to allow that.
What about what was that cigarette they were selling in Hobbs?
Spice.
Right, Spice.
Spice. They shut them down on Hobbs. And I don't think we've ever had a place here for it, but I don't know.
Not aware.
But then
Yeah,
what if
we
they
did
come-
try what's been in Lovington.
Two of them.
Yeah, there's two dispensaries, medical marijuana dispensaries in Hobbs, but I don't know what they don't have zoning, but they do have ordinances.
Okay, but
They also have
is that for growing it, or is it?
No, they are just selling it,
Just
but you
selling
have to
it.
have a prescription to buy it.
Okay.
And there's state laws.
There is a lot of state laws over.
I bet there is.
There's like this thick.
So far, knock on wood, we haven't had to address that. It's coming.
It is,
Is it really?
a lady, one of the ladies
Well,
over there said
and
she
like
tried to
Derek was
open
saying,
one.
there is times when, instead of always granting variances, we could use conditional and special use permits.
But a dispensary wouldn't necessarily be against anything to need a variance for, would it? I mean, as long as their electrical is up to code, their
this said
water's up
it's
to code,
sinusoid.
their,
And what, if I just don't understand.
I believe the issue on that one, what was
But
talked
what
about was
in
gonna be state.
territorial?
Yes.
Remember how that whole big issue come up and what's allowed and not allowed and how it's still a big,
Ordinances for the state. They should-
and that's why they asked us to start.
A special use permit would be like the first parking lot, and then we wanted to put a carnival there.
I see that.
All right, that-
That makes sense, but I didn't say this always gonna be there. I
Right.
can't move it.
Caroline was asking.
Okay.
Well, say like they want to come in with the marijuana, medical marijuana, or whatever, and say we've got these ordinances that they have to obey or do this and do that before they can do it in the city, but they can do it in extraterritorial county.
That'd be
But
up
no,
to
then
the,
they have the state
There's still a lot of state
State laws
regulations.
that they
They
have
have
to follow.
state and ordinance for the city and only
The
state
most
outside the city.
the most restrictive law, whichever one it is,
Is what they go by.
mandates. So if it's in the county, and the county doesn't have a law against, or for it, I don't know about that, but the state would have laws. And if it's in the
Or
county,
would
they
it
have to
be
follow the state.
in the Lovington ordinance or whatever, that, maybe if they would have to comply with state law, and that would be.
Yes,
they always have.
Would that be something code could do then, is put state law into,
Yes, you can adopt it, state law into your municipal code, you can do that.
And we
But
have,
you do not have to do that. One of my greatest examples, sorry, I do animal and code enforcement. So one of the greatest examples I can give you is we do not necessarily have, so the state of New Mexico like has the Dangerous Dog Act.
Right.
And the potentially dangerous. So if that happens here, because our city ordinances don't really address it very well,
Right.
then we file under state. So basically, if you have a violation at your home, here's a recent one, was electricity. Okay, so they had taken an electrical cord,
no,
stripped it,
no.
hardwired it in, ran it to a breaker box, and stripped it and hardwired it in. Okay, well, number one, under our code, you didn't get a permit. And in our code, in our zoning code, it states anytime you do anything with electrical, things like that, you have to get a permit. But not only that, then they violated state code, electrical codes by doing that. So, and that's a safety issue, because if you live next door to that and that catches on fire, then it catches on fire there. So that's why we want to be able to have all these things in our ordinances to address these. It's for safety. So, but yes, that's something you can always fall back on. If it's not in city code and there is state law, then we will. Correct. We have the authority to do state law. It just goes through, instead of municipal court, it'll go through magistrate.
If you had catch on
Correct.
fire, fire truck does not have to respond if you don't have that address.
Fire truck doesn't
I got a
have
meeting I'm
to
going to get to
what?
in a minute. so-
Okay. Isn't that correct, Bobby? We're on a total
Yeah,
subject. But the fire trucks don't have to, the fire trucks, if you're not part of the emergency 911 system, is it true that you don't have to respond? If like, okay, it was just. No, the reason I say that is because the city of Hobbs has a 5-mile extraterritorial zone.
Oh, okay.
And they are saying, telling us, this guy I know, but anyway, he lives off of Grimes on a Caliche Road. And he wants to put his mobile home right there. And they're telling him that they won't issue him an address for the 911, or without an address, you can't set an electrical pole. They won't put any utilities out there. And they won't give him an address unless he chip seals to his house. Not Caliche, chip seal. And they're doing that. The city of Hobbs is doing that on many of them. They're like, here, you want your address? Yeah. And it's $100 a linear foot, or is that right?
Just wouldn't have an address.
Well, but you can't get a power pole without an address.
Yeah, he has a power pole, he needs a power pole.
So how you gonna get power pole?
One of them heavy duty ones.
Okay.
This recommendation for the conditional special use permitting, what are you needing, or what are you?
A recommendation.
Okay.
Is what I need.
I recommend you do it.
More information.
I'm gonna.
I didn't get an email, so I don't know.
I sent like a
behind
couple
on
of
that.
different, on the email, we had sent a couple of different conditional use.
I didn't get an
He
email.
didn't never got his email, and I'm not sure I got
I
that
didn't
either.
Who'd you send those to?
I did that.
The link.
It was in her link.
You had to
I
go
went to
to
the link.
the one that said, look over this.
No, it didn't.
Mine did, I'll go right to it.
Mine were.
See?
Yeah.
Yours did?
She sent, had everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw her link and I opened it and, okay. Now we're moving on to landscaping, oh Lord.
I will work on those and get some drafts made up.
Okay.
So the one that you put in here is Hobbs.
Correct. So I wanted just to throw this out.
I'm still being recorded, so I can't really talk about Hobbs County.
So I wanted to put this in for y'all to actually read and just review and ask what your opinions are. So as far as like landscaping is, so when businesses, things like that do come in, that we actually have a landscape ordinance, which isn't, it's kind of like what you would have like in a subdivision, you know, if you go to subdivide, then you want people to do it in a certain guidelines. Well, when we have people that we want them to landscape, have proper drainage, things like that. Something that was asked recently was in where we're having people that are supposed to retain their water on their own property. So they have this big hole, so they asked, well, do we have any guidelines as far as what we make them put into it to help soak in the water, things like that? We don't. And so this is another way, and it could be a good thing to have landscape. Hobbs is not the only person that has landscaping ordinances. This was just for y'all to read, look over, see what you thought. If you think, no, we don't want people to have, they can do whatever they want, then fine. That's, if you want us to do more research and think that this is a good idea, then great, but if not,
The only
then we just
problem
say
I have is the
basically.
mosquito holes y'all are in. Them there ditches or holes or whatever, they mosquito heavens.
Well, they've started the spraying.
Last night.
Yes, last night.
And they have the tablets to put in the standing water areas.
Yeah.
They need one right by Caroline's house in the barn.
And they need one by Taco Bell, they need one up there by Ryan's, yeah, off 17th Street, because they just coming out of that.
We can't even get.
We don't have the teeth to make people pull their weeds. This is really extending past what I think should be
Yeah.
even messed
So
with.
like
Don't
whenever
let people
people
own their
come
own
in-
property and do their own property how they want to do their
You're
property.
gonna have, it's.
Well, so when businesses
This
come
is for
in,
businesses.
This is for businesses.
Okay.
so when businesses come in, such as the motel or the RV parks, This is a tool that they have to have landscaping. If you want to say no, so when they come in and do the planning and we're going over what all of our rules and regulations are, if you don't want them to have any landscaping, great.
And then they have
But
dirt blowing around.
But at that time, that's when it's gonna be addressed. It's not gonna be addressed that I'm going through your neighborhood and I need you to have some, that's not the idea and purpose. The idea and purpose is to beautify our city. This is the tool to help us to beautify our city, so that when businesses do come in, so far ours has actually have been really great. The motels put landscaping
people
down, the hospital has beautiful
Who are
landscaping.
gonna invest money or gonna try to make their places attractive in the beginning, I would believe.
Correct, but not everybody does. So this is
Such as-
just a tool so that it's an overall, if you don't like the idea, like I said, that's fine. I just wanted to throw it out there for you.
So what do we have enforced, like, let's just use the post office, for example. What do we have right now to enforce them to make them clean up their landscaping?
The weeds?
Yeah.
The weed ordinance.
We can do that on businesses? Yes.
Yes, we do. We hit every business in town that has weeds.
Okay.
Correct. That's how we address that issue.
Because that looks horrible.
Well, is there somewhere in town or somebody that's come in that is not doing this, that has brought this up? Was this a complaint-driven?
No.
Let's take the RV park on 17th Street, just for example. All
They
they
said
did
they
was
were going to landscape and they
caliche.
have not.
Yeah.
And I can't make them.
Yeah, because it's not in the city limits, is it?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
They,
That
yes.
was-
Yeah,
I
yes.
think now it is.
No,
Yes, it
he
is.
moved to, he didn't put it in there.
No,
That's not
Yeah,
true.
he did.
That was annexed in.
We annexed it in.
It is annexed in.
Yeah, I was there at the meeting.
Didn't it?
But,
It didn't get annexed in.
Yes, it did.
He
so
turned it down.
if there's no problem, then why worry
That
about
was
it?
the one out on the Reed Road.
So that whenever we do have, so if that is a concern, like.
That's why we made him do the city one.
And then with this landscaping, then, and then they have it.
No.
And if they don't, down the road,
He hadn't done
we would
anything.
like to be able to go back and say that you have to have this, it has to be part of it, and that's
He did
part of
put
it.
caliche.
And they can be cited right now. If somebody comes to you and says, hey, we're gonna do this, and they put no landscaping, then
There's nothing we can do.
Okay.
there's nothing we can do about it. But it was just a tool to use to beautify.
How bad that got when he was
Dusty,
planned,
yeah.
that had to close the road and.
Well,
Like I
I
said,
mean-
if you don't want to, that's
But
great.
it took a road.
Well, I'm just saying, if he came to you and made an agreement with you, then you should already have some kind of fallback on that to me, but I don't know how that works, so that's my,
It's not really an agreement, and when somebody comes and says they're gonna do something, and, but if they don't do it, there's nothing. it's just-
Well, he also said he was
there's
gonna put a
nothing
fence along the east side, and he never did that. For
Correct,
Mr.
but I'm just
Sanderson.
saying,
Wouldn't
this
that
is
be
just
in
a
his-
tool to use.
Thing that you could draw, wouldn't that be like in the blueprint or something? No?
That's not, you're not binded by that, because there's no rule that you have to do that. So this is a rule saying that you do have to, if the city doesn't want to make people landscape, and if, you know, and that's the choice of the business or whoever does it, then fine. But this was just something to look at and to be brought up.
is this just for new businesses and
Yeah.
stuff from here forward that come? Or is this gonna go back and go like, okay, well, we want you to beautify your place,
So
or?
that's something we need to address. A lot of times if it's brought into ordinance, unless there's a grandfather clause, then yes, that everybody overall is
When
gonna have
it
to do
within a
it.
certain amount of time, you're supposed to bring it up.
Well, so is the goal here for future stuff, or to go back and bite some of these people that have ugly lots? I mean,
The goal is
It's
to
to
see
help
if you want to have a beautiful, it's so that the community overall
Looks.
is a nice,
just
beautiful,
wondering.
it's to beautify the community, whether it be old or new. It really honestly doesn't matter. It's to have an overall appearance and beautification. And this is a tool to use, that if we don't want to, then that's, like I said, once again, that's fine. I'll hopefully beautify.
Okay. So, I think from all this discussion, we need to set a work session.
Okay, can I have a question though before I work, or we do anything with this? Clint, I don't think you like the idea of adding more rules.
Oh.
Yes, no?
We're gonna review it,
Okay.
everybody review it, and
Yeah.
this, what we have you given us.
Okay.
And then at the work session, we'll dig into it further.
That's what I needed to.
And I'm sorry to say, I really have not had a chance to review
Okay.
all of this yet.
Yeah.
I
there's a lot of it.
haven't either, well, you know what, I did get the email, and maybe I just noticed it said 96 pages, and so I probably, I read through the first couple, I mean, to be honest,
It was, okay.
yeah.
It was a lot, but I was trying to give you guys enough information just so you could get, so you'd have an idea of other people's opinions and other people's.
Well, it looks like you were very thorough. Appreciate
No, I
that.
actually missed a lot, but I tried to slim it down for you, because you should see my desk. And all the extra books I have right now on my desk.
Okay, everybody check your calendars. Yes, sir.
While everybody's together, you said you couldn't block a sidewalk. Is that a public sidewalk or is it a city sidewalk?
Same thing.
It's,
Who owns it? Or who puts it in?
usually the owners put it in,
Let's-
but it's on the public, it's on
The city does not
easement.
pay to put in sidewalks, not that I.
The developers put the sidewalks in, but the city is not responsible for their maintenance.
Is it on public right of way?
Is that correct?
They are on the city easements.
Sidewalks?
Sidewalks are on.
Sidewalks are subject to the city's jurisdiction.
Subject to the city's jurisdiction, but they are not.
Who's maintaining them?
The property
Property
owner.
Property owner.
It's in our ordinance that the
But they're in the
property owner-
setback for the city, so.
Yeah.
But
There
the
is-
city has jurisdiction to control
That area.
that area.
That's like the alley.
Yes.
Yes.
They control that.
Yes.
Okay, the reason I was asking is because they stopped at the sidewalk coming around on my side. I guess whenever they built this house, nobody ever completed the sidewalk in there.
We have that issue several.
And it's probably 100 yards. I mean, it's a long ways.
Yeah, that's
You
the
know, and it's
developer's
like, is that
building.
city's responsibility to finish that sidewalk or mine or whose?
And you know what? We don't have is a sidewalk ordinance.
Actually, we do.
No, that developers have to put sidewalks in. We don't have that ordinance.
It'll continue going without sidewalks.
I'll look that up.
Yeah, but when they were doing that development, that Sunrise Edition, there was no sidewalk.
Well, see, I mean, yeah, I mean,
Requirements.
that's
Yeah,
old.
no, there wasn't then, but I think there is now.
Well, they're developing it still. so-
Because I know Vista Builders is not having to put in sidewalks, but didn't the other guys have to? Over on Carter?
No,
They didn't either?
no,
And I thought they were supposed to.
no. I can answer that.
All that happened before I came.
See, and then, in all honesty, through your American Disability Act, they all have to put in sidewalks.
Right,
Yes.
to the, and have the handicap.
Yeah, with that new
Each
ADA.
one.
You're right
Make
there.
them wheelchair accessible.
Right.
Yes.
All that.
Just like the Avenue D thing that they came in, that's great. I honestly, I have a problem climbing the stairs and stepping up, so that's great, you know, that's been great. But when you go walking or something,
And they need to do it now, for people coming in here.
Okay.
Or get it, that's their responsibility.
Okay.
Put it in, ready to go now.
We're talking
So
first
that's
place and
a
second
federal,
place.
I asked the attorney, he said that's a federal jurisdiction, not the city or the state.
On the sidewalk and.
The handicap
handicap.
The handicap, the ADA issue.
But, no, the Roberts Ranch is out there, no.
They're not moving either. And that's what I didn't know.
That would be
That was-
handicap.
Because I know when
That's
James
what they
told
call
me,
it.
when I was looking over any new subdivisions, they had to have sidewalks in.
Where are you talking about?
There's
On
no-
Carter?
Really?
I'll show you.
Then I'm seeing where nobody else
We're
is doing it, and I'm
Not
like,
next month.
why was I told they had to?
So this month?
It's in the,
Not the end of this month either.
Okay, everybody look at your calendars. Betty's saying no July, not the end of this month.
Make it August, would be good.
I will be out in training from the 26th to the 1st.
Of what?
June 26th to the 1st of July.
So see, she's not.
I'm
doing
going to
either.
training.
So,
Okay, and then none of July.
no, we got where I work, then I get vacation.
that's a long way out.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for your
For a
time.
workshop.
Thank you.
Thank
you for
y'all for
coming.
coming.
Thank you for your
And be
input.
sure if you have ideas or comments, questions, Crystal,
I'm here, you can
You
turn
need
in.
10 acres for, at least 10 acres for an insane asylum.
It won't be big enough.
I need a 10 by 10 room for me. That's all I need.
So we could do it like on that. You said you come back when in July?
The first,
So we like.
I leave Sunday and come back Friday night.
From July 11th. And that was
When's
Saturday?
our next meeting?
It would be July the 12th.
Which would be our regular meeting anyway.
It would
Is
be
when?
July 12th.
July 12th, our regular meeting.
And-
/work session.
We could.
That makes
No.
more sense.
Uh-huh.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. No, I can't, I got Main Street.
They don't do anything anyway.
How do you have Main Street if you're already here?
Yeah, if you're already
That's
here
a
for
regular
regular
scheduled
commission
meeting.
meeting.
I know
Yeah.
we changed Main Streets to the 12th.
That's
Because it's
our
normally the
regular
5th.
meeting. Would
That's
be
our
on the
regular
12th.
meeting, so you're saying you're not gonna be here for a regular meeting that day?
No, I'm gonna have to change the Main Street meeting.
Way to go, Mark.
I'll change the Main Street meeting. How's that?
That sounds wonderful, Callie. We appreciate that
Thank
greatly.
you.
So you're saying,
So
Okay.
we'll do our commission meeting and then we'll have us a little work session.
Yeah, July 12th.
Because we don't need the work session aired on. Right?
No, it all has to be recorded, that's why I can't. Can we turn the recording off now? Here.
Are we adjourned?
Meeting adjourned.
Okay, I have to go to